Hello. So I'm continuing to do videos on games that I own but have not ever played. And the next one in my list is Fallen City of Karez. The story behind this one is the first game I ever supported on Kickstarter, if I remember correctly. I think that was around 2012. When the game was finally fulfilled, there was a whole lot of hullabaloo about the rules being terrible and uh, Kickstarter, oh, what are they, stretch goals or things that were supposed to have been included were not supplied fulfilled with the base game as they should have. And anyway, there was just a whole lot of bad press, I guess. And so I said, well, no bother, no point in opening that if it's a terrible game. So it's been sitting on my shelf, since I guess 2012, so 8 years. But since I'm doing all the games that I own that I've never played, I decided to open this up and see how it actually played. So let's go through setup. First thing you do is shuffle all the encounter decks. You got your undead, traps, heroes, humanoid, beasts, and ancient monsters. Then you shuffle your item and instant decks, shuffle your visitor deck. Then each player will pick one of the guild cards. It comes with 5, so you can have a 5-player game. I'm setting up for a 3-player game, so I've got the Public Guild, the Arcane Guild, and the Builders Guild. So that's the next thing you do. Each player selects their guild card. Each guild card will show the starting items for that guild, so a beast and a hero card. So, for this Public Guild, 2 gold, which I've got there, my beast card, and then a hero card. When you receive a hero card, you put it face up. So that's the hero card. This guy receives 2 gold and an undead, a humanoid, and a beast card. So that's those there. And this guy receives 2 gold and an undead and a hero card. So they also take their tokens that go along with their guild. So got those there. And these guild cards show the turn order that you're going to start the game with. And so you'll put the token for that guild on the turn order track, first, second, third. The 3 adventure decks and put them up here. One for the village state, one for the town state, and one for the city state. And after you shuffle those and put them on their spots here on the board, you take the top card from this deck and put it on the bottom of this deck. And I've already done that. Then you'll just put on the side of the board all the resources, gold, valor cubes, threat, wound markers, citizens, adventurers, gems, upgrade markers, dice. Game comes with lots of dice. Then you'll put 1 monitoring marker on the turn track. There's 8 turns. Put 1 monitoring marker on the village state. It starts out as a village, and as you get more citizens you can go to town and city. And then you put 1 monitor marker on the threat track on the 0 space. One thing, I'm supposed to turn over the top card of the village adventure, and that'll put 1 threat cube out. The first visitor card and put it on the appropriate space on the board. And that completes setup. So I think I'm all ready to go. I will say I think the board, the artwork on the board is pretty good. It's a little busy maybe, but overall I think the components and the artwork are not bad for this game, so those certainly I don't think were one of the complaints against this game. So let's see how it plays. So the game is kind of a semi-co-op game as far as I can tell. if the village, the game starts out as a village, and then it raises to a town, and finally to a city, depending on the number of citizens that are in it. Right now it starts with 4, so it's less than 6, so it's still in the village status. You start with 4 citizens. Well, it depends on the number of players, but with 3 players, you start with 4 citizens and 1 adventurer. Anyway, by the end of the 8th turn, if the village has not been raised to city status, then everyone loses. So in that way, it's co-op. But individually, each player is trying to win the most victory points. So there's certain ways to get victory points. Everyone can get victory points by acquiring buildings, by opening private dungeons, by winning adventures, gaining valor. All these things will give you victory points. But each individual guild has its own victory point condition also. Like public guild here, it says for each extra citizen. Now, kind of the thing that's confusing to me is I don't know what an extra citizen, what is considered extra, and it's not explained in the rules. So I think I saw somewhere in a forum where they're saying if it's over 12, any citizens over 12 would count toward victory points. That's one of the things I've noticed reading through the rules, and one of the complaints, when this came out, is there's a lot of explanation left out in the game. It's just not in the rules. For the most part, I think I can figure it out, but there's some things I've tried to look up. But I don't want to spend too much time doing that if the rules don't explain it, or if it's not easy to find. I'll just come up with my own answer to the question. But anyway, as I said, Public Guild, they gain extra points for each extra citizen. The Arcane Guild, they get extra victory points for every 2 threat cube on their private dungeon. And the Builder Guild gets a extra victory point for each owned building. And then the other 2 guilds, let's see what they have. We have the Heroic Guild. For every 2 Valor cubes, they give a victory point. And the Trade Guild, for every 3 gold, they get an extra victory point. So the goal of the game is obviously to earn more victory points than the other players, so you'll win, but also work together to get the village raised up to city status. Well, the turn sequence is broken up into phases. You have the actions phase, activating phase, adventures phase, state of Karez phase, turn end, and replenishing phase. So the action phase is first. What can you do during the action phase? Well, you can acquire a building. Now, as I've mentioned before, the game starts in the village state. So in the village state, only these blue buildings, the buildings with the blue, I think they call them lava lamp, only with the blue lava lamp symbols are available. So you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 8 spots that are available at the village phase. And all these that have the black symbol are not available at this phase. So one of the actions you can take is to acquire a building. Now, some of the guilds own a building at the beginning, like they'll already have the symbol here, and that's also on their card. So you can see the lava mill here on the public guild. Well, that's here, and it's got their symbol. So each guild, there's the Arcane Guild, and the other one that we've got playing is the Builders Guild, and they own the blacksmith at the beginning of the game. And some of the buildings can't be owned, like the black market. There's no shield for an owner. The healer's tent is another one that's not owned by anybody. City Watch, that can't be owned by anybody. But some of the games that enter, some of the buildings that enter later in the game, like this one, you can buy for 2 gold, and then you put one of your tokens on it, like that. Now, one of the disadvantages of owning a building, I mean, an advantage is when somebody pays to do something, take an action at your building, you would get the gold from that. One of the disadvantages is the guild tokens are what you use to take actions. So as you put them on more buildings that you own, then the less actions you have to take. So another thing you can do during the actions phase is you can either take 2 citizens and send them to work at a location. For instance, here at the lava mill, that takes 2 citizens. And then when you resolve that later, you'll get 1 gold, and the player owning this building, which is the public guild, will also get 1 gold. So you can take two citizens and put them on a space, or you can take 1 adventurer and put them on a space. For instance, up here in the marketplace, you'll see to produce an instant, this space takes an adventurer. So you would put him there if that's what you were going to do on your turn. So you can take 2 citizens and put them somewhere, or you can take an adventurer and put them somewhere. And there's the buildings on the board, the action spaces with this gold color anyone can take, and the action spaces with this lighter blue color only the owner of the building can take. And one thing I forgot to mention, when you're taking the action, for instance, if you were putting these 2 citizens here on the lava mill, then you also have to put one of your guild tokens there. So like I mentioned earlier, if your guild tokens are all on buildings that you own, then you don't have them to mark actions, and so then you couldn't take that particular action if you didn't have a guild token to place. And some of these spaces, like this one, it takes 2 citizens, but you'll notice when you remove these to actually get the reward, one of your citizens is killed, and it doesn't go back into the city center with the rest of the citizens. So that's how your citizen population can decrease, as some of these spaces require them to be killed. Another thing you can do on your turn during the actions phase is buy instance or equipment. So as players place workers on these spaces here in the marketplace, or over here at the blacksmith, or here at the tower, when it's not available at the beginning of the game, that comes into play when it becomes a town. But there's instance or equipment items that will be produced here, and if there's items or instance produced here, then one of the actions you can take during the actions phase is to actually buy one of those. And we'll see that when we do a couple of turns walk through here pretty soon. Another thing you can do during the actions phase is put one of your tokens on one of these adventures. So during the activating phase, you'll actually go to this ruins and fight the creatures in there. It shows it's got a humanoid, a beast, and an undead. And if you defeat it, then of course you'll win. You can see 2 valor up here, and you'll get to roll the treasure dice, 2 treasure dice to win reward. And later in the game, when it becomes a town and a city, more of these adventure spots will open. And there's also 2 private dungeon spots where players can open a private dungeon and supply the creatures for other players to go and fight there. And that's in fact another thing you can do during the actions phase of your turn, is mark dungeon that you're opening a private dungeon there, and then other players can go there, like I said, and fight the creatures you own. So you'll keep taking turns doing actions. First player will go first, take an action. Second player, third player, so forth until everybody passes, either because they're out of guild tokens or there's nothing else they want to do. So once everybody's passed, then you go to the activating phase, and that's actually when you would uh, resolve the actions you've taken. So, for instance, during the actions phase, if you put the 2 citizens here, you would have marked that, and then in turn order, you would resolve your actions. So at this point, you'd take your token back, you'd return one of these citizens to the city center and kill the other one, and then you would get the reward of 1 valor cube. And then the next player, he would resolve whatever action he had taken. So, for instance, if somebody had put a worker here during the activating phase, the Arcane Guild did that. He would take his token back. Then you would actually produce the instant that goes there and put the worker back in the city center. Now, that doesn't mean you get this item. That just means you produced it. And then later, or on another turn, or another player can now buy this scroll of vision for 1 gold because it's been produced here. So really, it doesn't make a lot of sense for other players that don't own this marketplace to produce buildings here, because you don't get anything for it. Now later, the guild that owns this, when somebody buys this item, they get that money. If that guild is not one of the ones being played, like in my game, this guild, I think it's the Trade Guild, is not in the game, so the money paid for items here just goes to the bank. But that being the case, the only way items are going to be produced here is if other players do put workers here to produce items and instance. So that's what you do in the activating phase. Just go to each in turn order, keep going to the different buildings that you put citizens or markers on, and resolve that, get whatever reward you get for doing that. Now, one thing I don't think I mentioned, when you're an owner of a building, you don't have to put one of your guild tokens on it when you take the owner action. You can just you could just put the citizen here during the actions phase. You don't have to mark it with one of your guild tokens. Then during the activating phase, then you would put the citizen back in the city center and get your gold. So buildings you own, you don't have to waste one of your guild tokens when you're taking an action there. Anyway, once the activating phase is over, you go to the adventure phase. Say if a guild had put one of their tokens on this ruins, then you'd go to the adventure phase and resolve that, where this player would then send his heroes to fight the creatures in that, and we'll get to that here in a little bit when we do a couple of turns. So finally, when the adventure phase is over, then you do the State of Karez phase, and that's where you'll look here and look at the number of threat tokens on the board versus the number of valor tokens that players have, and move this marker accordingly. So, right now, we just have 1 threat token on the board. Nobody has valor tokens, so it's just +1 red. So this marker would stay here, and now you'd go ahead and add 2 more citizens and 1 more adventurer to the board here. And if none of these citizens, if players had used some of these in a spot where somebody had to be killed, you would have less than the 4 that you started with. Anyway, so you add, as you have more valor cubes, you end up adding more citizens every turn. As you have more threat, you end up adding more adventurers, but that does not add toward the number of citizens to raise the level of the city. Now, once you do become a town, then all these buildings with the green border, you put a lava lamp token in them, and those will all be available, you know, for your actions. And finally, uh, once you get the city with enough citizens where it actually becomes a city, then the gold bordered lava lamp, lava lamp tokens go on the board in those spots, and then those um, spaces are also available for taking actions. And again, that's another thing that's not in the rules. It doesn't really mention anywhere to put those green tokens in the spaces with the green circle and the gold tokens. So, I mean, it's kind of common sense looking at the board, but it should definitely say that in the rule. I couldn't find where it stated that. Anyway, so after you adjust this and put the number of citizens, then you check how many you have. So if you'd added 2 more here, it'd still be 6 equal or less than 6. So the state of the city would remain the same. Then you move the marker, go to the next turn, and of course you're trying to get more citizens in here, so you get it to the town state and finally the city state. So that gives you more actions on the board that you can take, more citizens you can take actions with, and of course, as I said at the beginning, the village has to be raised to a city-state in order to win the game, or everybody loses. One other spot I didn't mention is every turn this traveler spot, this traveler card will be put here, and that's another action that can be taken. And there's nothing that really explains what these actions are. It looks like this one, when a guild decides to take this action, they can trade. It looks like you trade a valor cube for a threat cube. Not really sure why you'd want to do that, but there may be a reason. But these change every turn, and some of them probably more self-explanatory. But I do wish there was something in the rules that said, this means this. Anyway, then, like I said, then you go to the next turn and rearrange turn order depending on valor cubes. So if somebody had from adventured maybe and won this dungeon and got 2 valor cubes, and the other players did not, then they would end up moving their marker to the first turn order, and then any tie, you just remain by the guild order on your card. So I think I've kind of given an overview of the basic rules. So now let's maybe do a couple of turns and just see how it goes. Alright, so let's just kind of go through some sample turns, a few sample turns. So first player is the public guild, and what does he want to do? Increase citizens for sure, since that's how he scores extra victory points. And remember, since we're in the village stage, we can only do the blue actions. So he might want to take 2 workers and go here and get a valor cube, because he wants to start inching this up so more citizens can come around each turn. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to put one of his tokens on the city watch, and he'll put 2 guys there. And now it comes to the Arcane Guild. Now he's got some creatures already, so he may want to go ahead and open his private dungeon. So he'll do that. He'll put a token up there and open his private dungeon. Okay, so now we come to the Builder Guild. Now, he gets more points from buying buildings, but I think in this village phase there's not really any buildings he can buy. So let's see what he wants to do. He's got a hero. Well, the Builders Guild owns the blacksmith, so I think he's going to take 2 workers, put them on the blacksmith, and that'll produce a item here in a little bit. So now we come back to the public guild, see what they want to do. Well, he's only got 1 hero, a ranger, and so maybe he wants to adventure in one of those dungeons in a little bit, so he probably needs another hero. So he's going to take the one adventurer and put him here, and then he needs a gold also, and then he will get a hero. And this is at the end. So that's what he's going to do. Now we come back to the Arcane Guild. Oh, and we forgot to put a token to show that we did that action. Alright, back to the Arcane Guild. The building that they own is for a gold and a citizen. They can get another humanoid creature for their dungeon. But actually, since they own this, they could do this one, and it's just 2 citizens. But there's no more citizens. So there may not be anything left for this guy to do. Doesn't look like it because this action is taken. The marketplace, there's no more citizens to do marketplace. This requires citizen. This action is taken. Well, he could do this, but he doesn't have a valor cube. And I don't know, he may want to do that since I don't know where that threat token goes, though, that he gets. So kind of confused on that one. This one requires citizens. This one requires citizens. Black market is to get a loan. If you put one of your guild tokens on here, you get 2 gold. And then to retrieve your guild token, you have to pay 3 gold. So it's kind of interest, the extra gold. So that's really, I think, all the actions for this round. So he's going to pass. And this guy, he's going to pass also. So I think that's it. Everybody will pass, and we'll go on to the activating phase. So we're in the activating phase. We'll start with the public guild. He did this action, so he'll take his marker back, kill off this citizen, return this one back, and he gets 1 valor cube. So we'll take that, put it on his board. Okay. Arcane Guild, the only thing he did was open his private dungeon, so there's nothing to do there during the activation phase. And come over here to the Builders Guild. Now he didn't have to put a token because he owns this building, so he did this action of creating an item. So both of these guys will go back, and we draw an item and see what was created. Some magic gauntlets. Now those are available for purchase going forward. And I come back to the public guild. He did this action, so he'll take his token. This adventurer is dead, and he paid this gold. So we'll put that. But now he draws another hero. And he got a rogue. So now he's got, we'll just scoot that over. He's got a ranger and a rogue. Alright, the Arcane Guild didn't do anything else. And I think that's all the Builders Guild did. So I think, as I survey the board, that is all the actions that were taken in that first round. So the next phase would be the adventure phase if somebody had actually tried to go into one of these into these ruins or into this guy's private dungeon, but nobody did that, so there's no adventure phase. So then we come to the State of Karez phase. Well, we still just have 1 red threat token and 1 valor cube, so it stays in the middle. It's 0. So we had 2 citizens and 1 adventurer. So that gives us 5 citizens, which is still less than 6, so we're still in the village phase, so nothing else opens up. So now we come to the turn, end, and replenishing phase. The only thing I think really to do at this point is to draw a new visitor card for next round. Get a high priest. It looks like for a gold you can heal 2 wounds, or for a valor cube you could resurrect a dead hero. And then we go to the next turn. And we would determine new turn order, but it's actually going to stay the same because now you go by Valor cubes, but the Public Guild, who is first in turn order anyway, is the only one with a Valor cube. So turn order will remain the same as we have it. And so now it's the Public Guild's turn in the actions phase. So what does the Public Guild want to do? Well, again, there's not a whole lot of actions available, but let's just say he wants to get some more instants revealed. So he's going to take an action and take two guys and put them here and here. And it doesn't really specify in the rules, but I think he has to use two of his tokens, one for each action space there. So now we'll come on to the Arcane Guild. He doesn't start with any heroes, so he wants to get a hero. So he's going to take the Adventurer and a gold. And so he'll do that to get a hero. And now we come to the Builders Guild. And I think again he wants to build here. Now you could take an action here again, and if you build another item it just goes on top of this one. So whatever that is would be for sale, and when that's sold this one would then be available. But let's say he's going to put his guys here, and he doesn't have to put a marker again because he owns it. So now we go back to the Public Guild, and there's not really a whole lot for that he can do. So I think he owns this lava mill, and for one citizen, he can use this space since he's the owner of it. He can use that and he will get a gold. And again, he doesn't have to mark it with a token because he owns it. So now we come back to the Arcane Guild, and I don't think there's anything, there's no citizens left. There's not really any spaces that are going to benefit him. Come back here. Now, he has this Templar hero, and we see these magic gauntlets that I believe this, which I'll explain how combat and all that works when I get to it. I think even if you're not a Templar, you get this benefit, but if you're a Templar, you get this benefit. So I think he wants to buy that. And since he owns that, he just puts the money on it. Now I think any other player that wasn't the owner of this, they would just give the money to the Public Guild and then they get the card right away. But because, from the way I understand it in the rules, because the Public Guild owns this, they have to put their money on it, and then they'll be able to retrieve it in the activations phase. I think now everybody's going to pass, and we'll just go to the activating phase and resolve. So we'll come here, retrieve these two tokens from the Public Guild, and we'll put two instants right there. Oh, these guys go back here, gets his token back. We'll draw an instant and put it here, and an instant and put it here. Alright, now we go to the Arcane Guild. He did this, so this guy is killed, he doesn't go back. The gold, since this guild's not in here, it just goes to the bank. He gets his token back, and now he gets to draw a hero. And he got a Templar. Then we'll come over here to the Builders Guild, put his two guys back, and we'll put another item here. Now, I don't think I've mentioned the difference in the instants and the items. The items kind of stay with you, they're permanent, but the instants are kind of like potions and scrolls, and once you use them, they just are immediately gone. So that's the difference in those. And now we come back to the Public Guild. Remember, he put this guy, the citizen, on his own lava mill, so now he'll get a gold. And that just comes from the bank, goes onto his card. Back to the Arcane Guild, I don't think he did anything else. And back to the Builders Guild, remember he did put his money to buy this, so he's going to retrieve his gold since he owns that building, and now he takes this item and he'll put it with his Templar down here. And I think now we've done all the actions there are to do. Nobody used this High Priest. Again, no adventure phase because nobody tried to do any of those dungeons. So now we go back to the State of Karez phase. We still just have one threat token up there, and there's still only one Valor cube, so we still just put 2 citizens and 1 adventurer. So put those there. Get our adventurer. And now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 citizens. So the State of Karez is actually changed to a town. So now we go to the turn end and replenishing phase. Because we're a town, we'll now put the markers on all these green buildings, and they will be available. So let me get that done. Okay, so now we'll have the barracks, which you can pay a gold and a valor cube for a new hit point, basically, for your heroes. We've got the arena where you can kill a citizen and a valor cube for a hero. We've got the library where a gold and a valor cube gives you an extra, it's an extra dice to roll for your hero, basically an extra attack dice. We got the cemetery where before the cemetery comes into play, if your hero is killed, he's just removed from the game. With the cemetery, you flip them over and they're dead, but they can be resurrected. Got the workshop, which lets you pay a gold to get a trap card, which those are good in your private dungeon. The tower allows you to create some more items and instants. Storyteller allows you to get a beast card. And I think that's about covers it. And we got to go to the third turn. Oh, and we got to put a new traveler card out. Oh, he's pretty good, a mercenary, so for 2 gold you get a new hero. Alright, so we're starting with the public guild. Let's just say he wants to get let's say he wants to get an extra attack die, so he'll come to the library and he's going to do an action there. And he needs a gold and a valor cube, so he'll put that there. Come back to the Arcane Guild, see what they want to do. Say he still wants to get one more hero, so he's going to mark this, take this adventurer, and his last gold. And now we come to the Builders Guild. Well, we know he gets extra points for buildings owned, so let's say he wants to buy a building. So, I don't know, we'll just say maybe he wants to buy the barracks. So he'll put his marker on there and pay 2 gold to the bank. And now if anybody uses this, he'll get the gold, plus he'll get extra points at the end of the game for each building he owns. Let me just finish out the round for this turn, this actions phase. Well, I was just going to finish it out, but let's say the public guild, it's their turn. They want to go ahead. Well, they did want to buy this Ring of Power, but it's 2 gold and I don't have that, so I want to get some more gold. So since I own this, I'll go ahead and take this action. I do want to get somebody in battle so I can wrap this up, but let's say the Arcane Guild, he wants to get some money too, so he's going to take some workers and mark that. And now back to the public guild. He'll take some workers, put them there, and remember he owns this so he doesn't have to mark it. Okay, and we'll just say the public guild, it's their turn. They want to go ahead and buy this scroll of vision. So they'll take that, put it over here with their stuff, and pay the gold to the bank. Because this guild, remember, this guild's not in the game. Oh, one other thing I was supposed to do at the end of the last turn, because we went to a town, I should have flipped this new dungeon over. It's the wilderness, and add 2 threat cubes to the board. So we'll do that. And we'll just say everybody else passes. I just want to get to a battle so we can see how that works. So let's wrap up this phase. Public Guild takes their token, their payments, and they get a +1, which they can put on one of their heroes, which gives them an extra die roll. The Arcane Guild, they did this adventurer and a gold, and so they get extra. They draw another hero card, and they got a knight. The Builders Guild did this action, so they'll draw an item card, put it for sale. Who else? Builders Guild, oh, they own that building. Oh yeah, the Public Guild did this, so they'll get a gold. And the Arcane Guild also used the lava mill, so they'll get a gold, and the owner, Public Guild, will get a guild. will get a gold. So take 2 gold, 1 to him, and 1 to him. Okay, now we'll do the State of the Karez phase, and remember, nobody now has a Valor Cube because he used his for his action. There's now 3 threat cubes on the board, so this is actually going to go down to this section. So instead of putting 2 citizens or more, we do 2 adventurers and 1 citizen. So now we have 8 citizens and 2 adventurers. So the State of Karez remains the same. There's 8 citizens, so it still remains a town. And we go to the next turn. Alright, so we're in the actions phase. And we'll say the Public Guild, he wants to buy this Ring of Power. Well, that is owned by the Builders Guild, so he gives them the 2 gold. And he takes the Ring of Power. Now it's the Arcane Guild's turn. He doesn't have a wizard or a cleric, but he can use this mana potion to heal a wound for 1 gold, so he'll go ahead and buy that. Nobody owns that, so it'll go in the bank, and he'll take this mana potion. And the builder, well, he might want to buy another building, since that's how he gets points. So let's say he wants to buy, we'll say he wants to buy the library. That's 2 gold. Now if anybody uses this, he'll get that gold. Alright, so I've taken everybody's actions. Let's do the activation phase, starting with the Public Guild. They're going to go ahead, we won't do it till the adventure phase, but I'm just showing they put a token in there. They're going to go in the Arcane Guild's dungeon, but we don't do that till the adventure phase. So what else? They did this. So they actually did this public action. They could have done this one, but it only gets them 1 gold. But it appeared to me that for 2 guys, they can get 1 gold plus 1 gold to the owner, which is them. So unless there's something in the rules which I didn't see, they get 2 gold for that. Let's see, the Arcane Guild put 2 workers here, so they will build an item. And nobody owns that, so well, they're not buying anything yet, so they produced this item here. We now have the Builder Guild. They put 2 guys there, so they'll build an item there. Some lucky old shoes. Go back to the Public Guild. They put a adventurer here to build a instant. And who else did something? Let's see. Oh, the Arcane Guild. They put one of their things. They're going to go in that dungeon. Oh, but alright. They did do this. Now, when you open a private dungeon, you have this action available to you. So the Arcane Guild took this action, so they basically kill an adventurer. They get to roll a treasure die and add a threat cube. So let's roll the treasure die. They get an item. So they'll put it here. And then they add a threat cube to their dungeon. And remember, they get extra victory points for threat cubes. 2 threat cubes gives them a victory point. Alright, let's see. Who else did anything? The City Watch. Here, the Builders Guild. They have to kill off 1 guy. This guy goes back and they get a Valor cube. And they get that back. And I think that's all the actions. But you can actually, in this activating phase, you can still buy items. So coming back to Public Guild, you know, he knows he's getting ready to go battle, so he might want to buy one of these items, and he's got a rogue. So yeah, he's going to pay 2 gold to the Builders Guild, and he's going to buy these lucky shoes. And let's see, the Arcane Guild doesn't have any gold, so they kind of out of luck in buying anything. And the Builders Guild, they didn't put their token on any dungeon. They could if they wanted to get another hero. Let's go ahead and say, oh, well, I didn't do it. They should have put their token on here during the actions phase, and then they could have got a hero for 2 gold, but they didn't know they were going to have 2 gold. They didn't know that the other guild was going to buy their item. So let's just say that's it, and that's it for the activating phase, and now we go to the adventure phase. Adventure phase in this order, starting from left. So that'll be the Arcane Guild. He will be going in these ruins, and he's got to, before he picks his first creature, he's got to assemble his party, and the maximum number of heroes you can take is the number of Valor cubes on there. So there's 2 Valor cubes, so he can take 2 heroes, which that's all he's got anyway, and then he has to equip them. This number shows the number of equipment you can take. So let's see. We're going to give his Templar these magic gauntlets, since he'll get the bonus from that. And he'll give the Knight this mana potion. He won't be able to take advantage of this extra 2 attack dice, but he will be able to use it to heal a wound. So that's his party. And now look at the first card that they have to fight is a humanoid. So you come over here to your deck of cards, flip over your first creature you got to fight. Oh, that's not too good. They got to fight a giant right off the bat. So First thing you need to look at is icons that tell if anybody attacks first or attacks last. Now, you'll see this sword icon with the little arrows going like that. That means the knight attacks last. Neither the Templar nor the Giant has a symbol that says attack first. Let me just borrow a card, the Ranger, from over here to show you. If somebody had this symbol, that means they attack first. But alright, so since the Knight attacks last, the Giant and the Templar are going to roll at the same time. Now, the Templar gets hit by 2s. If the Giant rolls 2s, then those will hit the Templar. And if he takes 2 hits, he's dead. The Giant, you hit the Giant on a 3, a 4, and a 4. And this is the number of dice they roll. So the Templar's going to roll 3 red dice, and he actually has these gauntlets, which gives him already that he's rolled a 4. That's called a fixed attack die. So we can get that, and we can just already put that on a 4 and put it on his card that's been hit. But and because he's a Templar, he gets 1 green defense dice because of this card. And then he rolls 3 attack dice, and the Giant rolls 2. So let's get 2 blue dice for the Giant, right there. 3 red dice for the Templar, because he rolls 3 red dice. And then 1 green defensive dice for the Templar. So now for this attack of the Templar and the Giant, we roll all of these and see what we got. Alright, well, the Giant rolled a 1 and a 4, which a 1 will hit the Knight. So you can put that on there. The defense dice that was rolled was a 2, so the Templar could have used that. If the Giant had rolled a 2, he could have used that to block it. Or also, you could use it for another member of your party, so he could have used it over here for the Knight also. But the Giant, his other roll was a 4, which doesn't hit either of these guys. Now, the Templar rolled a 1, a 5, and a 2, which we needed a 3 or a 4. So the Templar didn't do any damage to the Giant either, other than that 1 fixed 4, which he already used. Now, because this is used, you got to flip it sideways. It can't be used again with this same Giant. If we defeat the Giant and go to the next card, then that can get flipped back and be used again. But now we go to the Knight. He still hasn't attacked yet, so now he gets to attack. And he gets 3 dice. And he doesn't get that bonus 2 dice because he's not a wizard or cleric. So he'll just roll his 3 red dice, and he gets a 3, 4, and 6. Well, 3 will hit the Giant here, and the 4 will hit the Giant here, so the Giant is defeated. So we'll take the Giant card away, and we need to put a wound token here on the Knight because he took that 1 wound. So that's these black cubes. I'll put that there. Okay, well, the next card on this Ruins is a Beast card, so we'll draw that. And uh-oh, that's a Hydra. He looks pretty tough. You see, he has an attack last also, so him and the Knight will go at the same time, but the Templar will get to attack first. And because we're doing a new encounter, so he still has this card. So he would have a 4 attack already, but there's no point in getting that out because a 4 doesn't hit the Hydra. We need 1s and 2s. So he'll roll his 3 attack dice and his 1 defense dice. Well, actually, I don't think there's a point in rolling that defense dice at this point because I think it only counts for this attack. And since the Hydra is attacking last, let's not use that. Otherwise, well, it wouldn't matter if we use that up or not, but I don't think it'll matter because the Hydra's not attacking him. 2 1s and a 2, so actually all 3 of those hit because we need 1s and a 2. And now the Hydra has a fixed attack of a 2 already, so he can put that on any one, or I can put that on any one of these guys. I think I'll put it on since he's already wounded. Well, they both have 2, so it's not going to matter. Let's just put our fixed attack of 2. We'll put that here for now. And then he rolls 3 blue dice. Let me get those. And the knight rolls 3 red dice. So let's roll those. Alright. We got a 2, which is going to hit, but we didn't get a 1. But then he got 2 1s and a 3. So the 1 will hit the knight here. The 3 won't do anything. So the Hydra's still alive, and both our knights are still alive, but let's put wound markers on. Alright, so I've put the wound markers on. Now we need to do another round with the Templar going first, and he gets his 3 attack dice. Yeah, the part I'm not quite sure about is if he rolled this defense dice now, would he be able to use that when the Hydra attacks? Let me check the manual and add the green dice to my 3 red attack dice. Oops. And if we get a 1, then the Hydra won't even get to make his attack. He'll just be dead. But we did not. And we rolled a 6 for our defense, which isn't going to help us at all. So that was bad luck. So now we go on to the knight and the Hydra. And the Hydra has the fixed attack of 2, so he's already for sure going to deal a wound to one of these guys. So we'll just set it here. We'll apply it later. So now 3 blue against 3 red. So let me get those. Alright. Alright, we didn't get a 1, so we don't kill the Hydra. And the Hydra got 2 4s and a 5, which doesn't hit anybody, but his 2 would hit one of these guys and kill them. But we're going to use this mana potion to heal a wound, so that'll just negate that. And this is an instant, so now it's just gone. Templar used his magic gauntlets to roll that defensive dice, which did no good, so he can't use it again against this Hydra. So alright, we come back to the Templar again, rolling his 3 red dice. Hopefully he can get a 1 this time and just get rid of this Hydra. And he doesn't, so that's terrible. Alright, so now again the Hydra does the fixed attack of 2, so he is going to kill one of these guys. Let's hope we take him out. So 3 for the knight and 3 blue for the Hydra. Alright, we do not hit him, and he does get a 2, so both members of this party are killed. Okay, when your heroes are killed, since the cemetery is open, you just put one of your markers on the cemetery to show that you've got burial plot there or whatever, and flip your hero cards face down, and they can be resurrected in the future. You do lose any equipment that you had. We'll just put that in a discard pile down here. And you don't get the rewards, and actually an extra threat cube is added to. Now What I'm not sure about is if this Hydra just goes to the discard or if he gets drawn again. I'm going to think he gets discarded, I would assume. So the next time a beast card is drawn, it'll be something random. Had been successful, then they would get the two Valor cubes. They would get to roll 2 treasure dice, and then this card, along with the threat, would be discarded. But sadly, that's not the case. So the last thing we have to do is kind of show it's very similar for the public guild attacking the private dungeon here of the arcane. The only difference is the arcane guild now, he'll take whatever creatures he has, and the only stipulation is you can't put 2 of the same creatures together to both. So I couldn't put a beast and then a beast and then a humanoid. You have to separate them, but it doesn't matter. He's only got 3 cards, so this is his dungeon, and he would put them out, and then of course the player over here would assemble his heroes and put what equipment he wants to take with them. And then it would be similar to the battle we just saw, where we'd flip over this card and the heroes would fight this giant spider, and if they defeat it, then they go to the next card and so forth, and that's how those battles go. And anyway, so that's basically how the game goes until you go through 8. At the end of the 8th turn, then you add up the victory points, which I'll talk about what those are here in just a second. But if you hadn't gotten the the village or whatever upgraded to a city by the end of the 8th turn, then just everybody loses automatically. But if you have gotten enough citizens and gotten it upgraded to a city, then you score victory points. And there's a little sheet here that shows you get 1 victory point for every 2 crystals owned, and you can get crystals from some spots on the board and from rolling treasure dice. Get 1 victory point for each building owned, except for the Builders Guild. You know, that's their special power. They get 2 victory points for each building owned. 1 victory point for every 3 valor. I guess the heroic guild gets it for every 2. 1 victory point for the best hero, the hero with the most level up tokens. 1 victory point for each open dungeon owner who hasn't had their their private dungeon, defeated. And then any extra points you get for your guild power. And then whoever has the most victory points wins Fallen City of Karez. So I did play a full game of this before doing this playthrough or instructional video. And I think I wish the designer of this game had just maybe put a little more play testing into it. Kind of like I said, there's been a lot of complaints about the rules. I agree. There's a lot of ambiguity in there, so that could have been fleshed out better. But, like with these private dungeons, I don't really see any reason to go to those. I mean, I did it just to kind of show that was something you could do. But in my playthrough, there was nothing that made me want to go to somebody's private dungeon when I could, battle these other dungeons over here. And that being the case, there's a lot of spaces on this board which give a player, actions to get cards for their private dungeon. But if nobody's going to come there, that's a whole lot of spaces on this board that, are not going to be used. And I also didn't like the fact where on your turn, you have to go put workers to create an item or an instant, but then you don't actually get that unless at a later turn you happen to get the opportunity to buy it. So that just seemed off. There was a few things off. Overall, I think there's a good game in here somewhere. And I think there's probably people, when I was perusing the forums, that have done some house rules and stuff like that maybe improve it. And maybe if it ever comes up where I'm going to play this with other people, I'll look at those. and see if there's some changes that somebody's come up with that improve on it. One of the other complaints, which I mentioned earlier about this game, is that some of the expansions and additional Kickstarter content was never shipped. I know there was some minis that were supposed to ship. I did get 4 years later. I think it was 4 years later after this came out. I did get this package, which contains some expansion content. Actually, it came with this Golden Dragon expansion, which I already had, came with the base box. And all as that seems to be is, each player's dealt a card that shows you're either in allegiance with the king and then one person is not. And so basically they're a traitor and they're trying to get the city to never reach, or the village to never reach city status. And if they'll be the sole winner of the game if the city doesn't reach city status, and everyone else will lose. So that's really it, all there is to that expansion. And I see they included that in there. The other, I think there's an expansion in here to add a sixth player. And so it's another guild with some, I can't remember. It's like some seafaring expansion, sixth player. And then there's like kind of bizarrely like a standalone. I opened this and went through it. There's kind of a standalone game that uses some of the components that came with the base game. So I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't really tried any of this expansion, but that did finally come about 4 years after the base game came. But I know there, like I said, there was some minis that weren't fulfilled, and people were just overall disappointed. So I can't speak to all that. I think there was something saying that the guilds were not well balanced. I can't speak to that at all, as I've only played one full game of this solo. So anyway, I think there's a possibility for a good game. I think the battles is kind of fun. So I don't think it's supported anymore. There was this token that showed Golden Egg Games, and I went to their website, and they don't even show this game listed amongst their games. So I guess they completely gave up trying to support it. But I just wanted to talk about it, as it's one of the games I had not played, and thanks for watching.